Good evening. Today is Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022 at 6 p.m. This is the Selectmen's, Board of Selectmen's meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we head into executive session, Mr. Weeks, do you mind reading this week's announcements?
Absolutely. Announcement, 7th Annual Bowling for Dollars for Scholars in support of Whitman Hanson High School students as the Hanson Bowladrome, 171 Reed Street, Saturday, March 26, 2022, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., and Sunday, March 27th, 2022, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., and that's $10. Reminder for the annual Boston Bruins for their 15th annual pajama drive to benefit DCF Wonder Fund in Cradles to Crayons. Bring a pair of pajamas to the Hanson Public Library from now through March 31st and support children in need across Massachusetts this winter. We're also looking for citizens at large to become members of the newly revitalized Bylaw Review Committee. Volunteer applications may be found on the town website, www.hanson-ma.gov, or by calling the Selectmen's office at 781-293-2131. Volunteers are also needed on the following committees: the Bylaw Review Committee, Capital Improvement Committee, Conservation Commission, Cultural Council, Disabilities, Facebook Upkeep Committee, Highway Building Committee, Historical Commission, Memorial Day Patriotic Observance, Memorial Field Trustees, Nathaniel Thomas Mill Committee, Parks and Fields Committee, and the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee. We also have 2 upcoming meetings: Board of Selectmen April 5th, 2022, and April 12th, 2022.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm looking for a motion to enter into executive session in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or discuss the discipline or dismissal of or complaints or charges against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. Exception 2, to conduct strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Exception 1, Camp Kawani part-time caretaker. Exception 2, town administrator.
So moved. Second.
Seconded. Roll call vote. Mr. Weeks?
Aye.
Ms. Kennett? Aye. Myself? Aye. Mr. Mitchell? Aye. Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
All right, we're now in executive session. It's Tuesday, March 22nd, coming back at 7:05 p.m. from executive session. One thing that I'd like to announce is the Board of Selectmen has entered into an agreement with the town administrator, Lisa Green, to extend a 2-year contract that will end in June 2024. If there's any questions about it, it is on record in the Selectmen's office. The next thing on the
I'd
agenda.
like to make a motion to approve the town administrator's 2-year contract. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? 5-0. Thank you. So with that being said, the next thing is I just want to review the warrant for town meeting. It's coming up. This is a first draft, a rough draft, but I just wanted to read off the articles tonight. And just so folks are aware of what is in the proposed warrant, and if there is anything that we had mentioned in the past that we no longer want to pursue for this Springtown meeting, that's fine. We're just going to pull it out, and then we're just going to close the warrant after that. Any questions?
No, but just to clarify, we're not voting to place or recommend tonight?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. It's just, I just want to get the information out there of what's coming, a little sneak preview, so to say. So the first thing is to hear the various town officers, committees, and special committees reports. The second article would be to see if the town will authorize the treasurer collector to enter into a compensating balance agreements during fiscal year 2023 as permitted by Mass General Law. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to fix salary and compensation of all paid elected officers and committees of the town as follows. Article 4 is to determine the sum of money that will be raised and appropriated by taxation, transfer from free cash, and transfer from the ambulance fund, water department revenue, water surplus, Title 5, special revenue fund, MWPAT, loan repayment recipients, reserve for appropriation, conservation notice, intent fund, overlay, surplus fund, balance reserve for reduction of future excluded debt to defray charges and expenses of the town. And then the next one would be to see if the town will adopt Mass General Law, Chapter 64L, Section 2A, to impose a meals excise tax of 0.75 to take effect October 1st, 2022, or any other action in relation to.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's just a meals tax. I don't think it's a meals excise tax.
Oh,
Can you just double check that, please?
Yeah, it is just a meals tax.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know how that got in there, but yeah, it was just the
Great.
local meals tax.
Good catch.
And excuse me, Mr. Chair, I did suggest, after I spoke with, the Chair of the Board of Health, that, we fund the purchase of a generator for the transfer station through ARPA funds. But, Mr. Hickey, mentioned that he thought it would more appropriately come from the Board of Health, so I did let, the Chair of the Board of Health know that we would not be submitting this article, and I suggested very strongly that they submit it. I don't know that they have done that, but perhaps, Ms. Green, we could reach out and just double check, whether that's something that they might want to do.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to purchase a generator for the library and senior center. The next article would be to see if the town will vote to require all elected and appointed boards to videotape their meetings. The following would be to see if the town will vote to commission a study regarding town hall administrative staff and the efficiencies that might be gained by cross-training and shared softwares. Article 9 would be to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money from free cash and install security cameras around the perimeters of town hall and other town property. 10 would be to see if the town would create the position of a part-time administrative assistant for the Board of Selectmen. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to create the position of grant writer / procurement officer with an annual salary range of $60,000 to $75,000. The position would be funded and be filled at a later date when the budget funds are available and approved by a town meeting. So I just want to kind of stop right there just to get a clarification.
Yes.
I thought that a part-time administrative assistant and the procurement officer was going to be one. Did I miss a communication?
No, those two different positions.
Two different positions,
Two different
okay.
positions.
And also, Mr. Chair, yes, there seemed to be some confusion in some circles regarding who was proposing the grant position, and some had thought that Ms. Green was the proponent of this. And I wanted to clarify, without a doubt, that it was not Ms. Green, although she is supportive of it. It was the Economic Development Committee that proposed this. And so I just wanted to be very clear that it is not Ms. Green suggesting that we add a grant writer, although she feels that it is a good move, otherwise we wouldn't be submitting it. But it did come from the Economic Development Committee.
Okay, great, thank you, that's good clarification. Any other comments before moving on? No? Okay. To see if the town will vote to amend the bylaw of the town of Hanson to change the title of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board, as follows, or take any other action related to. The next article would be to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or bond a sum of money to demolish the former Maquon Elementary School. In the past, we had raised money for this. Is this money still available, or is this for additional money to cover the cost due to inflation?
Yeah, so in the prior vote, and I believe it was 2019, it was a $1 million cost, a figure that was put in there for the town to bond. We're pretty sure it's gonna cost more than $1 million, so we do have to bid that out to get pricing for it. So there was vote to demolish the Maquon Elementary School, but I do believe we can possibly use some ARPA funds for that. But we do want to put this in and, at least to have a placeholder in the warrant for it.
Okay, do you think that it would
So
be?
that money, the approval for that is still there for the $1 million to bond.
We don't need to revote that.
We don't need to revote it, no, but it's pretty sure that that price tag is gonna be higher, so this would cover any additional amounts.
Okay, and, do you think that we would be able to get, an estimate before town meeting?
We're gonna try,
Okay.
we're
And
gonna try.
I'm sorry, ma'am, Article 9, I noticed that you're, replacing Board of Selectmen with Select Board. It doesn't address anywhere where we might be saying Select Man. And I don't know, I mean, it just seems to me as though we must have something within all of the various bylaws that's an individual. And so I would just suggest that maybe take a look at doing a flow-through of Select Person wherever it says Select Man.
Oh, okay, select person, okay.
Well, it just seemed like it would be weird because the way I was reading this is you'll be making flow-through changes and you'll be replacing Select Men with Select Board, but Select Man will still be throughout all of the documents if you don't specify in this.
Okay, I'll make sure when town council reviews it that they pay attention to that.
Perfect. We all set to keep on moving? The next article is to see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate $11,000 to purchase a new election equipment or take, action in relation to. The next one will be to see if the town will vote, to approve the Woodward and Curran agreement of $42,750, which is subject to town meeting approval listed in Article 2-1, Section 2 of the town general bylaws. This upgrade would replace the existing SCADA PC with a new Windows 10 PC and upgrade the existing SCADA software to the latest versions. And this is from the Hanson Water Department. So SCADA is just the software that they use to collect our information with water usage. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to transfer from water surplus $40,000 to upgrade our SCADA supervisory control and data acquisition is what SCADA means system for, and any other relationship to, or any other action relation to.
So, excuse me, what is the difference between Article 12 and Article 13?
That might be a good question for Mr. Don Howard, who is with us tonight. I don't know if you want to speak on behalf of. What was the question? So we have two articles for town.
I think it's probably the same article, that was put in there prior to us receiving the information regarding the Woodward and Curran agreement, so.
Okay.
That
So it's just
was
a
probably
repeat?
put in there before we got the rest of the information,
Okay.
so
Okay.
that's a double.
Never mind, Mr. Howard. You're off the hook.
Prices are on.
Thanks, Don.
So,
Read that.
Article 14, to see if the town will vote to amend the wage and personnel bylaws as printed in the warrant. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to transfer $17,000 from free cash to fund the promotional exams for the fire department deputy chief and lieutenant. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to amend the wage and personnel bylaws. Article 2-12, classification and compensation as printed. Article 17, to see if the town will vote and raise the following sums of money to operate the recreation department as printed. Article 18, to see if the town will vote and appropriate the sums of money to operate the transfer station as printed. This was withdrawn, just to be clear, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer available funds to the sum of $12,000 for the purchase of acquiring limited acquisition level property condition report, a roof survey, a roof report, an accessibility survey level 3, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and life safety survey for the gatekeeper's cottage. So that was withdrawn. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to reduce the number of members on the Recreation Commission from 7 members to 5.
Excuse me.
Yes.
On Article 19, I assume that they withdrew this because of our current fiscal situation, which is certainly understandable and admirable. However, it seems to me as though this would be community preservation eligible, and I wonder whether, any thought had been given to that?
So,
I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
if I may, Mr. Chairman, so yes, there's 2 reasons why we went through this article. The first one is because of obviously the current fiscal situation that we're in. The second one is we are exploring the community preservation
Great.
aspect of being able to fund that since it is a historical building.
Great.
Across with a couple other projects that we have at the camp. So, yeah, that is, obviously don't want to spend money that we don't have.
Excellent, thank you very much, Mr. Malisi. And then Article 21, to see if the town will vote to fund the position of an event coordinator and facilities manager at Camp Kiwanee. 22, to see if the town will vote and appropriate a sum of money to fund the development of a strategic plan, and that was from the Economic Development Committee. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of money in the amount of $14,000 for grading a private gravel roads to allow fire and law enforcement services safe access, and this is proposed by the Highway Department. Ms. Kement.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, Ms. Green, that article was not proposed by the Economic Development Committee, that was proposed by me. The Economic Development Committee did not take a vote about the strategic plan, and I don't want, I'm sure that they would be bullish about it if we brought it to them, but we have not taken a vote in.
Okay, we'll correct that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then, to see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate or transfer from free cash the sum of money in the amount of $59,000 to purchase the equipment of a Ford F-250 pickup truck for the Highway Department. Article 25, to see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate the transfer the sum of money in the amount of $240,000 to purchase and equip 6-wheeler Freightliner dump truck and sander for the Highway Department. To see, Article 26, to see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate or transfer from free cash the sum of money in the amount of $66,000 to purchase an infrared pavement recycler trailer for the Highway Department. Article 27, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer the sum of money in the amount of $59,000 to purchase and equip a Ventrac sidewalk snow remove and sweeping tractor for the Highway Department. Article 27, to see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate or transfer from the sum of money in the amount of $9,500 for the removal and replacement of guardrails at culverts located on Reed Street. Yes.
Through you, to Ms. Green. Ms. Green, this is nearly $460,000 worth of, equipment from the Highway Department, and given our fiscal situation, I'm hoping before we meet again and are able to make recommendations and vote to place, that you might be able to circle back and talk to.
Yeah, that's why these are in bold,
Okay.
because, yeah, that's why they're in bold.
Okay.
Because they're questionable. So we've bolded any of these capital requests.
Okay.
And I think it would be great to have any department heads that feel very strongly about any certain articles, that they come and present that information to us.
Okay.
Just that way that we're making an educated recommendation.
Absolutely.
Article 28, to see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate $23,000 to fund an existing outreach for senior position at the Council of Aging. Article 29, to see if the town will vote to approve $30,000 from Community Preservation Fund to replace the fence at the Boteri Baseball Field Complex. Article 30, which is in bold, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $100,000 for the construction of a park perimeter trail and Bay Circuit trail relocation onto the former Plymouth County Hospital property. This is a matching grant, I believe. Ms.
It
Green?
looks like it's reimbursable, is
Yeah,
what it is.
reimbursable.
Yeah.
So,
So it means we spend the money first.
Right.
And then submit for reimbursement.
Okay.
But I haven't seen, I have not seen this grant, so I don't know what's required as far as reporting.
okay,
And we currently have the a Mass Trails grant which is 100,000, that we had to, match 34,000, I believe. And we're in that process with reporting and things like that. So I haven't seen this particular grant, documents to figure out exactly what they're looking for.
okay, great. And then, I know the trails kind of fall under conservation, but this is also a Plymouth County Hospital Committee project as well. So I think it might just be good just to double check with, Phil and just make sure that, which department is it actually gonna come from?
Okay. And also through you, Mr. Chair, again, community preservation eligible. So to the extent, what we've done in the past is if it seemed as though it were questionable whether we would get reimbursed, we would have community preservation as kind of a backup method. So you would vote it and say that your intention is to have the Mass Trails pay for this, but as a backup, community preservation would pay for it. Having said that, it's not a placeholder from community preservation, but it's in the warrant already. And I see that they're meeting, according to this, April 13th, so, you know, Phil or whomever would have to kind of speak to Andy and those guys pretty quickly. I think Phil is actually on
He
CPC,
is.
so that would be pretty easy.
Article 31, which is in bold, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of 25,000 to replenish the conservation fund. Article 32, to see if the town will vote to elevate the conservation agent, position to a full-time and fund said position. Article 33, to see if the town will vote to amend the wage and personnel bylaws, Article 2-12, classification and compensation by revising Section 11A, professional position, line E, conservation agent. Article 34, to see if the town will vote to restore funding of the position of the administrative assistant to the planning board as a full-time position. Article 35, which is in bold, to see if the town will vote to fund the purchase of 2 F-250 pickup trucks with plow sanders through free cash or take any relation thereto. And that is for the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. Article 36, which is in bold, to vote to fund the replacement of the telephone system district-wide, including any and all related costs, up to $25,223 for the school district. Article 37, in bold, to see if the town will vote to fund, repair, or replace any of the high school, replacement of the high school main roadway, of upwards, which the total would be $120,000. This is a shared expense with the town of Whitman totaling $300,000. Article 38, to see if the town will vote to fund HVAC elevation schedule engineering report, for the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. The amount requested is $3,940, and with the town of Whitman totaling $10,000. Article 39, to see if the town will vote to transfer funds for reimbursement for a replacement of 4-frequency drives on the rooftop, totaling, the total cost is $21,750,000. Hanson's share would be $8,569,000. For the school district, Article 40, to see if the town will vote to fund the repair and replacement, to vote the repair and pavement of the main roadway to the Hanson Middle School. The amount requested is $200,000. Article 41, to see if the town will vote to fund the refinish of the Hanson Middle School gym floor through free cash, the amount $25,000. Article 42, in bold, to see if the town will vote to transfer $11,788 to reimburse expenses incurred by a required boiler inspection at the Hanson Middle School. And and I'm just gonna say that there's a nice table in here, outlining all these capital expenses. Article 48, to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Hanson zoning bylaws by amending section, 6 to repeal and replace the subsection L, medical marijuana facilities, and, subsection M, marijuana establishments, to combine the two subsections and update the language accordingly, and take any relation thereto, and that's sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. And I believe, Ms. Kennett.
Yes, but responsive to Mr. Melissy's citizens petition that he put together.
Thank you.
That one in particular wasn't my petition. I think that was the one from Mrs. Federoff, who wanted to combine it. That was the one that was separate from the retail.
Oh, your Article 49.
49.
I'm way down the list where everybody's gonna be asleep.
You need
so.
a T-shirt that says, I'm Article 49.
I'll get that made, I'll get everybody here, including Ms. Hickey, one of those t-shirts. Full support of Article 49.
Article 49, here it is, to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Hanson zoning bylaws and amending section 6, subsection M, marijuana establishments, to allow for marijuana retailers by special permit in the districts identified in subsection 6M.4, any relation thereto. And just bear with me to see if there is anything else. I think that's the,
28, page
Oh,
28.
there's two more.
two more, all right.
Article 50 is on page 28.
28. Thank you. Article 50. To see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Hanson zoning bylaws by amending section 6, subsection M, marijuana establishments, to add Hawks Avenue to the list of eligible locations for marijuana establishments, and any other action relation to. And Article 51, to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Hanson zoning bylaws to amend section 6, subsection M, marijuana establishments, to allow marijuana delivery operators and marijuana carriers in industrial zones and certain other eligible locations described below. And Mr. Mitchell.
I would suggest that this board takes these home and goes through these, with a fine tooth comb. Based on my 7.5 years' experience in last week's meeting with you guys, we get some serious cuts. There's no way we're gonna be able to afford,
Right.
70, for me, maybe we can afford 70% of it, but we got serious cuts.
I
And we
totally
really
agree.
have to
Yeah.
look at this individually, so when we come back, we gotta separate the wants from the needs, and, it's gonna be really difficult,
Mr. Weeks, did you?
Yeah, I was just a little bit more specific, but to echo that, I think that, just to kind of elaborate on what Kenny was just saying, I think this board has already made a commitment to not raise taxes. And that's where this is coming from, not from the perspective that we don't want to support everything in this warrant. It's just we've already made the commitment that we're not going to raise taxes. And we wish we were able to do this, but I think the number that we came in when we had our joint meeting, we were asking for a lower number, and then since that time, the school assessment actually came in higher. So we actually have to look at this even finer than we did before to make that commitment of not costing jobs, not cutting jobs, and making sure that the tax remains the same. Just to add context to that.
And that's not easy to do.
No, it's not. We have a lot of work to do.
So, as I said before, I think it would be great to reach out to department heads and have them come in. If there's something that they're really, really wishing for, that they come in and explain why is it imperative for them to have it this spring.
And through you, Mr. Chair, the other thing that would be super helpful, most of the time we do this, is if we have FinCom, once we get to that point, I know we're not to that point, review and give us recommendations before we go through them, so we have them. I know a lot of times we come in and we're under the gun and we're not sure they're here and, we're not sure, but we really need to tighten it up this year.
Yep, nope, that'd be great. So if we can make sure that we, work as well as we can with the, finance committee, so we get their recommendations sooner than later, so
Okay, yep.
when we make our recommendations, that'd be great.
So
Reach out to
what
Kevin
meeting
Sullivan.
are we planning on, voting to place and recommend? So that we can then communicate it to FinCom, so we can back into it.
Right.
Because you're right, Kenny, I felt very uncomfortable last year, sort of voting to recommend without knowing where FinCom was on the whole thing. It was like, this is
It's
not
just
the
not
way
a good
this is
feeling,
supposed to work.
especially this year where we have this, we're really gonna need them.
Well, we're gonna be funding some of this stuff with free cash, and no one operates a budget like this.
Right.
And so I'm going on, I know everybody agrees with this, but like, the way we're doing this right now is not the way we should be doing
It's
it.
not sustainable.
It's not only not sustainable, you would not run your house this way, you would not run a business this way. It's very clear that we're actually just patchworking a budget to get through the next fiscal year. We're gonna have a big problem, not just this year, but the following year, if we are gonna sustain a budget like this.
We're
You
going
can't
to
do it with
have a
free cash.
problem for every year in the future if our growth continues at the rate that it is.
gonna
And the
get
school
worse.
assessment continues to be what it is.
Yeah, it's gonna get
It
much
is
worse.
It is just a cluster. It's an utter chaos waiting to happen.
Yep.
So we, I'm hopeful about new sources of revenue,
Yep.
but it's not gonna solve everything.
So I think it would be great if you wouldn't mind reaching out to FinCom, and just seeing where they are with everything, so we can kind of get an idea
Yes, I
of
can.
when they'll be ready with their recommendations. And, I don't know about you guys, but if we have to meet on a Thursday, just to make things happen.
Oh, we
so
have
we're
to
not-
do it, yeah,
We're
yeah,
not
it's
meeting
too
at the
important.
11th hour, I'm happy to meet
Yeah.
other than Tuesdays.
I really, to
Agreed.
be honest with you, I don't wanna be dramatic, but I did feel like it was almost disrespectful of the FinCom last year. Just like, I know we did what we had to do, but I just felt like, well, my gosh, what the heck is the point of them meeting and, whittling things down and, sharpening their pencil and all those other little phrases that we throw about at this time of the year if we were gonna vote before we even heard from them.
But in their defense, they need the proper information from our office so they can make an educated decision.
Yep.
A lot of times, we're not getting them the information 100%, so they're
Yeah.
looking at it going, well, what's that number? Oh, we'll have that tomorrow, that's just a placeholder.
Yeah.
And then now you got 10 placeholders and you don't know where you are, so they can't make an informed, so we have to be fair to them like we want them to be fair to us.
Yep.
Yeah, so, to answer the question on the next meeting, so on the April 5th meeting, the articles come before the board again. And then April 12th, that's when the warrant will sign, and it's on here to have a town accountant update. But, we got our, wrinkle thrown at us on Friday, afternoon. And, our town accountant has been out, so he'll be in tomorrow, so I can sit with him and go rework this, based on the new school assessment, which came in at 5.5% increase assessment.
And just to be clear, just to clarify, we kind of penciled in 3.5.
Yeah, we had worked with figures of 3.25, 3.5, and 4, and they've come in at 5.5. Our growth last year was at 3.49%. Remember, unfortunately, the last couple years, COVID has really flattened out growth for the country, basically. But if you will, Mr. Chair, I would like to, this might be a good time to talk about ARPA.
Sure.
Because I had attended the MMMA.
So before we do that, can I just get a motion to close the warrant? And then we'll move on to ARPA.
So, second.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? 5-0. So moving on to ARPA.
Yes, so, on Friday, I had attended the Mass Municipal Management Association meeting. And during the meeting, they had a very good presentation of, the updated Treasury final rule, that they had come out with in late January, which goes into effect April 1st. And a target of that discussion was, in the categories for ARPA funds, they have different categories. One of those categories was revenue loss. And up until they came out with the final rule, they had an interim rule, that outlined some restrictions and requirements and prohibitions for how municipalities could use the lost revenue. Well, as of the new final rule that the Treasury came out with, they have, lightened many of those restrictions. And they have actually even added some flexibilities, they expanded flexibilities. The Executive Office of Administration and Finance made a presentation on this, and then the MMA also, their senior legislative analyst made a presentation. The good news is, with the public sector revenue loss, municipalities can now use some of that money to make up for revenue loss to fund general government services. So basically, we can use some of that money to eat up some of the gap we have in our budget. We don't have to come up with reports and analysis of how much revenue we've forecast that we've lost in the last couple of years. They're not requiring that. You just use it. You can use all of it. They put in what they call a standard allowance, up to $10 million. So basically, a municipality can take everything they've been allotted for ARPA money and put it towards this lost revenue under this standard allowance amount. Basically, communities that opt for that standard allowance, that's what you use it for. Some communities, you can use only part of it, and then you can earmark funds for the rest of it. Now, this is a 3-year program. You have to spend the money by December 2024, or you have to appropriate it and then spend it by December of 2026. So that means if you work on a project like the Maquon Elementary School, which, if we could show negative economic impact, which I think we have a really good argument for, and we have a great plan to show what we would do with that property as far as the baseball concessions.
Yep.
That would increase our economic development. We can certainly reason that this money is needed to demolish that building, so we can move forward with this plan that will flourish our economic development, our open space, our recreation. So they've come out with some flexibilities of how towns can use this money. On one factor, you don't want to use one-time money to close a budget gap. On the second factor, what's our alternatives when we have a budget gap this large? Now, with the prior assessment for the schools that they came out on February 16, they had lowered their assessment based on some errors they found in calculations. So it lowered our assessment by about $156,000, brought our deficit down to a figure where we could cut some other things to bring it down. We were in good shape. But the figure they came out with Friday brings a whole new thought process to how we want to approach this budget. And this is a viable source of money. Yes, it is one-time money, but it's money that the federal government is kind of trickling down. And with my conversations with Tom O'Brien, who is the Plymouth County treasurer, the town of Hanson is earmarked to receive, we know for a fact that we have $1,424,353, $1.1 million. That is from us to the Treasury to us. So in June, we got half of that money. So we got $571,000 in June. Now, Plymouth County, that is getting a separate allocation for the town of Hanson. It's in the implied area of $2.1 million. They are still waiting on confirmation for that particular amount, but if that amount comes through, Hanson will have gotten a total of $3.6 million in ARPA funds. And again, the counties are waiting on confirmation of that. We've got that 1.1 million. The 2.6 million is there. They're just waiting on confirmation on that. And again, everything is moving at a snail's pace. I mean, the Treasury is still coming out with these rules. So it's something to think about, to get us through. COVID is lifting. Supply chains are starting to come back. Building is starting again. Of course, now the war and the gas prices are throwing another wrinkle into that. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully with the new revenue sources that we're going to get, you know, with the meals tax, if that passes, we'll get that revenue. Hopefully, with the marijuana bylaws, we'll see some of that revenue. By the way, $68 billion is what marijuana sales brought into the state last couple years.
Wait, can you say that one more time?
$68 billion.
And that's just here in the Commonwealth?
Marijuana sales in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Since it started?
The last 2 years of COVID. And you know, you want to know how much Hanson got from that? Zero out of that money. Huge amounts. All you have to do is, you know, it's all over the Treasury, the DLS, it's all over how much money marijuana sales came in. You know what the second money was? Restaurants. Restaurant sales last year went up so much, and guess how much Hanson got from that? Zero, because we didn't adopt the meals tax. So there's two huge moneymakers that the state and any municipality that has marijuana sales and the meals tax have adopted, have seen large revenues, and Hanson has seen zero. So we really need to really explore these areas of revenue that Hanson is not tapping into and seriously think about it.
If we don't want to do an override, if people don't want an override, then
Right.
There's only a few avenues, because costs are going to keep going up.
I look at this as, you are right, that these ARPA funds, if we go this route, it's a one-time thing, and you can't build a budget around that, but I look at this as, it gives us a runway. It gives us a runway to solve the problem, because it gives us funds to be able to kind of patch it together. But there's lots of solutions in here, that
Right.
runway won't be needed anymore. So it's really up to the town to figure out how they want to solve this problem, because I'm not necessarily, we'll figure it out this year, but it's gonna be exponentially worse 2 years from now. So I think that's really what we have to figure out is, with these ARPA funds, what are we gonna do with that grace period? It's up to the town to kind of figure that out.
Yeah, I just want to present you with all the facts.
Yep.
You know, here's the pros, here's the cons. It's something for us to think about and consider. You know, it's a tough time, not only for us. I mean, I think, many other municipalities, and what I found out at the MMMA meeting was that a lot of municipalities use free cash to close their gaps. It's not an uncommon practice out there.
But doesn't that affect our bond rating ultimately?
It does,
Yes,
it
it
does,
does.
yes,
It
it
absolutely
does,
does.
it
Yeah.
does. Yes, it does. So, there's a lot of work to be done, there's a lot of thinking, a lot of options to be explored, but I just wanna make sure you have all the information to know that this has come out, this money is available. Again, you have to use all of it or whatever, you can use some of it. But it will help us save personnel that we've just brought on, rather than looking at layoffs and kind of taking 10 steps back from where we are now.
Any comment, Mr. Hickey?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Frank Malisi is looking at me, and he's making me nervous.
I just wanted to say $68 billion that are not on the backs of the real estate taxpayers of the town of Hanson. Sounds pretty nice.
Thanks for mentioning that again, Frank.
Yep.
Not that I'm defending the schools, which, you know, I could easily. By law, the district has to submit a budget on March 16th.
Right, they have to certify.
So that is why Lisa got the email last Friday saying, you know, the assessment is 5.5. They had to submit a budget. Not that that's gonna be their budget, but I mean, you know, people at home probably don't know that. It's by law that it has to be done. So at least we have a number to work with, you know.
Thank you very much for bringing that up. Any other comments about ARPA? No? All right, great. With that being said, moving on to Dollars for Scholars requests, requesting permission to use the former Maquon Elementary School parking lot for the annual Spring Electronic Recycling Day.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? There's also another request in here for Dollars for Scholars, seeking permission to erect a funding thermometer on the Town Hall Green for approximately 6 to 8 weeks from April to the end of May.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? 5-0. And lastly, the Dollars for Scholars is asking the Board of Hanson to declare April as the Dollars for Scholars Month.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? 5-0. And then for those at home are kind of asking, what's Dollars for Scholars? It's a great organization that fundraises money to help provide scholarships to our students who are going on to their next step in life. I know I have been a recipient of it myself, and it was truly helpful. And I know Mr. Mitchell's kids has, and I'm sure Mr. Hickey's has, and Ms. Kemet, and in the future, I know Mr. Weeks' kids
Oh,
will
they'll
be
be
as
getting
well.
it. They'll be getting it.
So,
It'll be great.
We'll be retired by then.
That's right.
So it's a really great organization to really support our kids here in our community. So I'd highly encourage folks to give when they can. I know they'll be out in front of the ballot boxes in May, so be sure to bring some cash with you. If not, clean out your basement and bring some of your old electronics to the recycling day. So with that being said, old business, to revote the waiver, to waive the right of first refusal for the purchase of 902 Main Street, Unit 47, in Hanson. And I think it was just, this is just a procedural thing. So I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Wait, are we, wait, hold on a second. Are we, what did we just vote on? Did we just vote to, did we just take a vote to revote?
Yeah, so last
Okay.
week, last week
Okay.
we, took a vote and it passed, and then it just was, just to be extra cautious, Ms. Kemet just wants to make sure that she recuses herself, so there's no conflict of interest. Yep.
Bingo. All right.
So it was 4-0-1, with Ms. Kemet, abstaining. And one-day liquor licenses, I'm looking for a motion to approve the one-day liquor licenses as printed on the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? 5-0. And then I'm looking for a motion to approve open session minutes from December 14th, 2021.
Do you know if I was at that meeting? I don't have a copy of those minutes.
Good question.
Have that?
No, I'm so sorry, that was one of the ones that
All right, so then we'll,
it was emailed.
Table it.
we'll table it.
Okay.
Not a
table,
problem.
Yep.
And then next time too, can we just throw on executive sessions for, I think it was January 22nd, and I'll send you an email. I wrote up those minutes.
Sorry about that.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Town Administrator's Report, Ms. Green.
Yes, all right, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. So, as I had mentioned a little earlier, I attended the Mass Municipal Management Association, meeting on Friday. It was very, very informative. So not only did I learn the information regarding APA, we also heard the legislative update of, some of the important, state aid that comes in. So Chapter 70 money, Chapter 90 money, there's also a winter recovery fund that is, if it passes, the Senate will be debating these on this Thursday. It will add up to $100 million for road repairs. Now, Chapter 90 money, which is money that the state allocates for road repairs for all the municipalities, they have one formula for that takes into consideration a community's percentage of roadways, it takes in the population, and then it takes in the percentage of employment for Chapter 90 money. For this winter recovery fund, they're only gonna consider the percentage of roadway and for how much you're gonna get. So that's gonna be an extra funding source. Hopefully, if the Senate passes it, and then it goes on to the Ways and Means, that the municipalities can look forward to for helping us with road repairs. Chapter 70 money, there is, talk through the legislature of increasing the student aid, from $30 to $100. So again, that's something that's in the works right now with the legislators. They have advised us all to call our state representatives and get them to vote for that $100 for the student fund. So that is still out there in the legislature. And there's also, so let me see. So for the budgeting for the state, now, again, through believe it or not, the last couple of years, the state saw a 20% increase in revenue in fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 22, I'm sorry, they saw a 20% increase in their revenues for the state. So the state right now has quite a large surplus, and the state government is enjoying, you know, a lot of benefits out of this money. So the MMA is approaching the state with going back to like a shared type of revenue budgeting. I don't know how far that will go, but they're starting those steps. I guess in past years, there was a shared revenue where the state would share some revenue with the municipalities, and it kind of went away, but now they're trying to get this back. So we'll see where that leads. But it's good that people are, that discussion is open. So, I don't know if you remember a little bit way back, we talked about the one-stop shop grant program. We submitted a statement of interest with 5 projects. So I'm happy to report, we've got 3 of those 5 projects are eligible for Mass Works infrastructure grants. Actually, there were 4 of them that were available. Now, one of them that has to do with, the housing, we have to become a community of housing choice first designation. So there's a little work to be done there. But otherwise, the brownfields for, work up for the Hawks Ave is eligible for the brownfields grant. The master plan update is eligible under the, mass planning grant, and then the other projects under the Mass Works infrastructure grant. So that's very good news. We're gonna be meeting with Tracy Costa on next Tuesday to talk about the next steps for preparing these applications for the grants. And one of the grants was for the sidewalk upgrades over at the, South Hanson by the MBTA station, so that was included with that, so.
That's great.
Wonderful news on that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Kudos to you, and I thank Mr. DeFrayis too. I know you guys both worked very hard on this, so thank you.
Thank you. It will be really good when we start seeing the dollars come in from this.
great,
But,
Jill.
you know, being eligible for these is a huge step, and they point us right in the direction of the grant that we need to apply for to get, for this work, which is great. I have an update on the audit, the Whitman Hanson Regional School District audit procurement. Again, the second bid, it generated no responses. So, Whitman Town Administrator Lincoln Hyman has put it out again. I have not received any responses from Bridgewater State, on the scope of work I had sent them. I reached out to them, but I've received nothing. So we're still out there hoping for somebody. I mean, we still have one company that submitted a submission a couple years ago that is still interested in the project, so I'll leave it at that. I again responded to several public records requests this week, which means you kind of drop everything because you have to acknowledge it within 10 days and then gather the documents, for that, so we took care of that. Again, we've been working really diligently, myself, Jill, and Lucia, on putting the warrant together. This is our first town meeting with the 3 of us, putting it together, so we're working very hard to make sure it goes off very smoothly. Personnel matters have come up this week that I was working with, and we are working on the budget almost on a daily basis as things and numbers change. And that's my town administrator report for this week.
Ms. Green, I had 2 questions. One is there any update, we talked about infrastructure a little bit at the beginning of your report. Is there any update on the Maquon Street project?
Yes, so right now, you know, that TIP program, the environmental partners in the state are moving forward with the process they have. We are stuck with dealing with the Abington-Rockland pipe that runs down Maquon Street through a little bit of one of the ponds there. And who is going to be responsible if that pipe is damaged during the construction? So town council is working on it. They've gone back to the early 1800s looking for any kind of documentation on it, and have really come up with not a whole lot. So now I've sent the question to town council. can we enter into some kind of agreement with Abington and Rockland over who's gonna fix the pipe? So if work is being done and that pipe bursts, and we have to fix it because it's in Hanson, but yet it's affecting Abington, Rockland water, we may have to foot the bill to fixing it, but then do we go after Abington and Rockland to have them reimburse us? So that is an area sticking right now that's still being worked on. I know Deb Petty had started working on that when she was here, and then we have continued it. Unfortunately, with someone else's pipe running through our property, basically, and we want to fix that road, and we've got this TIP program that we're approved for, that's kind of a sticking point, of who's going to be responsible for, if any part of that pipe, which was put in, I don't know how many years ago, hundreds of years ago, what's going to happen with it. Because, water pipe bursts.
Through you, Mr. Chair, so who would be responsible for that pipe right now before you do anything
It's
to the road?
still a question. It's still a question.
That same person should be responsible regardless if you put a new road or not.
Absolutely.
Pipe's still in the ground.
Pipes through the ground, it's something that's been there, but nobody has paid any attention to it until now.
Ms. Kevin?
To Mr. Mitchell's point, clearly Abington Rockland would fix it because it's going to impact their people getting water. Now, to the extent that our project damaged the pipe, then I would think we would step up and we would be responsible. So, both towns have got liability insurance that cover these types of things. But I mean, if you've got Kate on it, I'm sure, or whomever, legal counsel on it, I'm sure we'll figure it out.
And then the other question is, how old is this infrastructure? Because if it's a certain type of pipe that is in there, it's gonna crumble once you start moving the ground.
Right.
And if that's the case, then we should be approaching them and saying, here's the bill to put a new pipe.
Yeah, we
Because
want the pipe replaced while we're doing the road.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I like where you guys are going with that.
Well,
So-
some of that pipe runs under one of the ponds too, the Maquon, I could think it runs under a small section of that pond.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of pieces to that, but,
Okay, nope, I just wanted to make sure that was still on the
I'm on it.
stove. And then lastly, any update on the investigation?
yes, so, I did mention it last week in my report that the attorney who's doing the investigation has all of the documents. We've forwarded everything. I haven't gotten any requests for additional documents, so they have it all. I did send an email asking for an update, but I have not heard from them yet, but you can't rush the investigation. I mean, they have to be thorough with going through the documents and doing their analysis. So we're just waiting right now for the results, and as soon as we get them, you'll get them right away.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Green?
Just to follow up on that one, just on my own curiosity, because it's been a while. How close are they coming within budget for this investigation? And, because I forget whether or not we capped it. I know we put a cap on it, but I don't know if we said it cannot exceed this. So,
Was it
do we know?
70?
I think it was 7,500,
7,500,
but I just want to make sure that,
7,500.
are we on that? Have any invoices been submitted?
I haven't seen an invoice or anything yet, that they know what the cap is. I
Okay.
would think that if it's exceeding that, they would have reached out to me.
Yeah, I just wanted, just for the sake of asking.
And the other thing through you, Mr. Chair, is it would be nice to get that back while we have the same sitting board. So we're not waiting until May, and then you gotta start the whole process and.
Yeah, so like I said, I did ask him for an
know.
update for a status, I sent an email, but I haven't heard back from him, but I will follow up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that being said, and no other questions, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, do you have a question?
No, just,
Okay.
I was getting ready.
Okay, moved by Mr. Weeks, seconded by Mr. Mitchell, correct? All in favor? 5-0. Thank you very much, and it's 8:00.
All right.
Woo-hoo.